In 2026, we are absolutely blessed with comic book accurate suits. Spider-Man Brand New Day suit looks exactly like the depiction of Spider-Man when you think of the iconic web swinger in your brain. Superman 2025 gave us the bright depiction of who Superman is in terms of a character and costume, as his suit's just as bright as the day. And finally, we got back to Trunks, so that was pretty cool. Daredevil Born Again Season 2 finally gave us the double Ds on Daredevil's chest that fans have been wanting for so long, ever since the beginning of the show. All of these look like straight up ripped from the source material in the comics. But I want to think back to this and think back in the early 2000s and somewhat of the 90s. It felt as if Hollywood was ashamed of comic book looks in general. And that's what I'm going to be explaining in this video. In this video, I'm going to be explaining the why, when, and how, and the uprising of comic book accurate suits. If you would want to see me talk about more about comic books in general, please make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notification bells. That way you will never miss an upload. Next video after this, I will be trying to design the DCU Batman. So hopefully you will enjoy this video. I believe the start of this was the 1997's flop known as Batman and Robin. When a big name like Batman flops, it gives studios an opportunity to want to improve their own projects so that way they don't follow along the footsteps as the failed project. But Hollywood took the wrong message. Hollywood thought that Batman and Robin flopped was because of its nerdy comic book designs it got from the comics, instead of realizing that it was just lacking of good writing. I personally thought that Batman and Robin wasn't that bad. I mean, it's not the worst comic book movie because Catwoman exists, but when Blade came out, it wanted to move away from entirely being called a comic book movie. It just got promoted as like a vampire hunting movie. That was all. Another key factor is that in the 90s, a lot of edgy and more adult-themed comics were coming out around the time. But to the naked eye, they just assumed comic books were just for kids. Blade just looked like a comic book movie in disguise because it wasn't that much nerdiness. It was more dark and mature and didn't really look like a comic book movie to anybody that was just a casual viewer. And around the 2000s, I believe the biggest comic book movie franchise followed this up. We all know it, Fox's X-Men movies. Now, Fox assumed that yellow spandex would look goofy and no one would originally take it seriously. That's where we got Cyclops' iconic line.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
Eventually, Disney would end up buying Fox, which would mean the X-Men's position would go back to Marvel. And when they made X-Men 97, they made a comeback right to Fox's comet with using Cyclops again.
Am I going to war or a circus?
What'd you expect? Black leather?
A common joke for superheroes around the time as well was that superheroes always just wear underwear on the outside. But another thing that Hollywood would do is actually mess up the characters in general outside of their designing. They made Superman super edgy and evil in the Snyderverse. And the thing I'll never forget Fox was, I messed up Cyclops in the Foxverse, bro. They literally downgraded the leader of the X-Men just because Wolverine was more popular. That is why people call Wolverine the X-Men, was because Fox never gave Cyclops the true chance to shine.
Assemble.
The X-Men really did well from their movies, and essentially in the 2000s, before the Avengers became a thing, the X-Men was Marvel's primary team thanks to the movies. So whenever someone thought of the X-Men, because of how big the movies were, they would think that Wolverine was the main X-Men compared to Cyclops. And this inspired, of course, so many other studios to want to recreate the black leather and kind of dark aesthetic for superhero costumes. But this one really set the nail in the coffin. We all love and know Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. When he was originally making the movies, he had a lot of sketch and ideas for what the costumes were going to be. Instead of making these dark and edgy aesthetic that the Fox movies did, he wanted to go full realistic and military mode when it came to making the aesthetic of the costumes, the Batmobile, and everything like that. It gave the idea for the superhero industry that what if all these ideas, like these costumes, these gadgets, the setting, were all realistic? And that blew up overnight, considering how big of a director Christopher Nolan is, and this only added more to his resume for that. I'm still excited for The Odyssey, even though I know nothing about it. Failure worse to movies like Fan Forstig came out, and they were just pitched to be extremely different from the source material. Instead of it trying to be a sci-fi upbeat film about family and friendship, they just tried to pitch it as a sci-fi horror film. And to that was just crazy. And they were desperate to make a Fantastic Four movie because if Fox didn't make one within the estimate of 10 years, then the rights for Fantastic Four would just straight up go back to Marvel. But then Fox ended up buying Disney. Disney ended up buying Fox, so it's like a whole complicated legal system. But I just know Fan Forstig performed very bad because it was nothing like the comics and it was just genuinely a bad movie. No side got to win between casual viewers and comic book fans. The sudden redemption of this came into Marvel's MCU. They wanted their movies to stand out visually brighter compared to other studios out there. Think of the perspective of someone that's around this time. Every superhero movie looks the same. Superman Returns is coming out, yet just doesn't have like that like widespread share of audience to like get the message out to Hollywood. And when you see the MCU coming out and making billions of dollars for each movie, you ought to know Hollywood wants some advice from that. And that's when they realized that in general, it just looked comic booky and less like how they were trying to do before. It visually stand out. It's like that one meme of like that red guy standing next to a crowd of a bunch of white guys. Marvel was the red guy, both figuratively and literally. With some good writing too, the MCU became this powerhouse juggernaut that juggled so many iconic movies and so many distinct designs compared to any other movie out there right now. I mean, just compare these two designs from the Fox X-Men movie and Iron Man, and you could already tell which one looks more comic booky alone. So Hollywood, of course, trying to follow trends that, you know, other studios set for expectations for, they, of course, wanted to realize what made the MCU so special, and they realized it was not only just good writing in general, which Hollywood still hasn't learned sometimes, and in general, just how the visuals look so pleasing with the suits. So fans from the comics from the start were so pleased with to see when all these big household names were becoming these adaptations that had comic accurate suits. Some studios did try to at least get a mix of them too, like the Snyderverse, but overall the Snyderverse wasn't just good at writing. That's mainly all they wasted. Such a good Superman actor, bro. But in general, the MCU just drove a big juggernaut of people that wanted to copy their way, not only in the cinematic universe, but wanted to copy every single bit from the aesthetic to the vibe of the costumes to everything similar like that. And that leads us to today, actually. Well, now look, we're into 2026. It seems that Hollywood is following the success of the MCU. They drove billions of dollars. Superhero movies became a juggernaut media that so many people could not ignore. And in general, this led to a lot of companies learning from their mistakes and making their own comic-accurate suits. Nowadays, we are blessed with so many suits, such as Brand New Day suit, the Superman suit, I could go on. But a recent example for a comic book suit that isn't even close to accuracy was Green Lantern. Now, Green Lantern's suit in the movie that we got was just too weird. It was just too high-tech and overly complicated. Fans just wanted this suit only. That's when Lanterns came out, the trailer, a lot of people were still upset. The suit wasn't that accurate at all. And a lot of people made like fan edits about how it would look if it was actually green. So now you could tell that the bare minimum now is a comic accurate suit. Because when you look at a superhero suit, you see that that's the first expectation that is stand right from the get-go. And without it, a lot of people are going to be skeptical about it. I'm not saying it can't without it, but I'm just saying just at least embrace the source material. That's literally all I'm saying. But in conclusion, fans are just simple creatures and just want accuracy to not only how they look, but as characters in general. Like, I understand looks aren't that important compared to the actual story, but if we're doing adaptations on like previously acknowledgeable things, then yeah, you have high expectations to fill. So in general, that's all for today's video. If you want to see me talk about more superhero stuff in general, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn notification bells. And next video will be on the Ben 10 comic, or the Ben 10 comic review actually might be out, considering that's on my main agenda right now. But outside of that, that is about it. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.